So yeah, legitimately, how have you been enjoying My Hero Academia?
Honestly, not too bad. So far, like season one was a little bit slow,
Hmm.
but I felt the emotion very strong.
Yeah,
Like it's been a long time since I've cared about a pro tag, especially in a battle shonen. But
yeah.
I like Deku. Like he's real, and I even like the relationship that they established even with him and his mom. Uh, there are things about my hero and that relationship that remind me a lot of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood too, because obviously that's one of the
Yeah,
strongest. Right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
can
like when
see
you think,
it.
yeah, because like when you think of like you got the Elric brothers. They loved their mother. Obviously, she died. All that. Spoilers, anybody? But
Yes, only spoilers to an anime in the 2000s.
yeah, exactly. It's only like 14 years old. But no, like legitimately, I think that's partly why I'm liking it. I'm drawing parallels to how the characters are written and how it's paced to how Brotherhood was.
All right.
And they're both shorter stories, but they're while My Hero suffers a little bit more from the common battle shonen tropes and Brotherhood didn't, I still can say that even when it has a moment that it seems like it's getting a little boring or a little draggy, it's like they do something that makes me still have interest. Like the fight with Todoroki and Deku
Yeah,
in the tournament arc had a couple of moments that was like, okay, typical fighting. I'm getting a little tired, and then they slap you with his flashback and his backstory, and it's like, okay, now where the fuck are the goddamn tissues? I'm bawling like a fucking baby.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, so overall, it's been pretty good, but one thing right from the get go that really bugged me is Bakugo. Um,
All right. Yeah, yeah.
the thing about Bakugo that bugs me is, yeah, like in one sense you can draw parallels, like, oh, he's the angry guy, oh, Deku's his rival, but it's it's not as comparable to me as like say, a Vegeta and Goku thing, or even a Sasuke and Naruto
No, no,
thing.
it's pretty heavy, like because these guys, like they establish in season one that there are some memories between the two of them. But if you look at just going off the like first like I don't know episode one and two, it's pretty clear that like Bakugo is literally just a bully,
Yeah,
like
and
and not the fun kind either.
and that's exactly what bothers me about his characterization, because when I look at a character like Vegeta or a character like Sasuke, and obviously I'm not really big on Battle Shonen, you know this,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like when I compare them to a lot of the other ones out there that people see, like we've got this rival quality going on. Yeah, like you said, Bakugo just feels like a bully. It's like somewhere along the way, this guy got really egotistical, probably when he got his quirk, and got really such a strong sense of pride that he developed a superiority complex. The way he bullies, you would almost expect him to have an inferiority complex because, I mean, hell, psychology even tells you usually if you bully someone, it usually means you don't like yourself or you don't like something about yourself. Bakugo doesn't even seem to have that. He just seems very arrogant. And the things he said to Deku, and like you said, those first couple of episodes really got me thinking, especially when there's one thing he said that really fucking scathed me as far as like thinking about a friend goes, especially a childhood friend like that, someone you might consider like a brother,
Yeah.
was, oh, maybe you should, just like end yourself now. When he said that, it was like, you basically just told your oldest childhood friend to walk into a creeper in Minecraft. IRL.
That's
Like,
a very
like,
PC way of putting it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well. I mean, look where I am.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to be delicate, but like that's basically what you told him to do, and I was just like, it got me thinking in a bit more of a deep retrospect of like questions you'd ask yourself. How would you react in this moment? Like, and I started to think, is this character probably is being set up, and I don't know, but I'm also not big on spoilers. Spoilers don't bother me, I should say. But like,
Yeah. If we're gonna, we should probably mention if you don't want any spoilers. I think we'll leave like some like we'll
we'll
let you
put
know
like a little alert
exactly.
here.
Yeah, where to go to if you don't want any spoilers
Yeah.
for this. But yeah.
Yeah, because like it just got me thinking though, because like in my thought process, all I thought was, I'm sure this character is probably slated for redemption later on. And honestly, as I've gotten a little further in it, I'm seeing Bakugo change a little bit. Um, I wouldn't exactly call him Deku's friend again yet, nor would I call him, you know, caring. But it feels like he's at least starting to understand Deku a bit ever since some of the other situations with All Might and some of the fights that take place later on, especially with One for All. But regardless of that setup and knowing that that's probably foreshadowing right from the get-go due to anime tropes, the questions I asked myself was like, if this was your friend, if this was your experience in real life, how much do you believe in redemption? You know, is there a point where a person who's done these kind of actions to you or someone you know has reached a point of no return? Can you forgive someone in this situation if they're really trying to profess how sorry they are? Because you know, we all try to like give ourselves the mentality of sticks and stones may break my bones, but
Mm.
there are some words you can't forget. There are some things that are said to you that you can't take back. Even if by some chance you manage to forgive that person, you will never forget those certain things or phrases that they said to you. How could you? It's like a mental scar. So like my question is, would you be able to recover from the damage that this person did to you if this kind of person was your friend? Like, anime plot is one thing, I guess, and we tend to have that suspension of disbelief where it's like, you know, oh, you know, well, of course we forgive the character now because now we have that really intense emotional scene where this person saved this person's life or this person died for this person, etc. And now it's like all of a sudden all that shit is wiped clean. And it's kind of like when they say, oh, don't speak ill of the dead. Well, if the person was an asshole, does it matter either? I feel like it's the same principle. Like, how do you go about justifying, let alone forgiving the person maybe when they're attempting to turn over a new leaf? Because the question is, can you trust them enough to know they're not just gonna fucking do this same shit to you again?
So it's really interesting, right? I've got two examples that come to my mind of experiences that I've gone through with friends where I had to really question, is this recoverable? Um, based on just what had happened or what they had done. Um, and I think it's going to be different for everyone. I have a pretty high threshold for the shit someone can do to me. Um,
Mm.
before I'm like, before I really like discount them as a friend. If it's stuff that I think that if it comes from a place of personal weakness, kind of like Bakugo, where it's like
Mm.
their ego just can't handle it, then
Yeah.
oftentimes I'm happy to forgive it because it is truly just um like you kind of see through the bullshit. And I think that is a part of like Deku's like appeal is the fact that he, to some degree, he kind of looks at Bakugo and he doesn't really see him as any of the bullshit that he sets himself up to be. He only sees him
Right.
as just his childhood friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, so in that case, I can relate. There are some cases where I don't, and it really depends. Like, it ultimately comes down to if you. Well, it doesn't ultimately come down to. I think we could probably go a bit in depth into it. There's. I feel like with me, if you are dishonest, like dishonest with yourself and with me, it's really hard. It's really hard to come back from. Um, and like Bakugo is a very honest asshole.
Yeah, that I'll say. Like he's not a liar. He's not fake or phony. He's just very much a piece of shit at times.
Yes, and in that way, it is kind of similar to characters like Vegeta, right? Where yeah, he's got just this personality that nobody really gets along with. Um, but that doesn't mean they're not completely irredeemable. It just means that they have done some really
Vegeta
shitty things.
Vegeta, the only reason I feel a little bit differently as time went on is because even though he still has that angry tsundere quality going on, it's the tsundere quality that I think keeps him from being less of a piece of shit in my eyes because he still loves his wife,
Right.
he still loves his son, and there are numerous occasions and examples where that's shown. If they gave me something like that with Bakugo, and maybe they will, I obviously don't know yet. Maybe my opinion might change, but this guy seems to care about nothing other than I will be the best, and I'm fucking full of rage boners. But
Well,
like, you know,
in a similar sense, though, what Vegeta's love for his family doesn't scratch away what he did. In fact, you could argue that he's probably done more worse shit than Bakugo has. It's just that Bakugo doesn't have um any sort of he doesn't think about he doesn't really think about the consequence of what he said then. And I think that's part of his character. I think it's really just the fact that they're trying to, you know, color what it is like when you're a teenager. I don't know if they actually cover back on it because I haven't seen that far in the anime or the manga. But
I do agree with you in the sense that yeah, Vegeta definitely has done worse shit. I mean, yeah, obviously the dude's basically been genocidal.
yeah,
Like that so that's completely fair. But I think that also says something when I still like Vegeta more and the guy has literally fucking committed like universal
yeah,
holocausts.
yeah, yeah.
And I still like his characterization better. You know what it is, right? Too. I think it's also because Vegeta's also a little bit surreal because he's an alien. He's like technically half monkey, being a Saiyan.
Right.
He's you know there's like interplanetary shit. Whereas Bakugo, well, yes, but they're all superpowered people. It's like fucking Marvel or DC with that shit. But at the same time, they all feel like more realistic people in My
Yes.
Hero than Dragon Ball does, and I think that's why it hurts more.
And it feels just it's easily more relatable.
Yeah, agreed.
You have to like there's you have to really take away from Dragon Ball Z to enjoy it.
Mm,
Um, and it's because it's very supernatural.
yes, very sci-fi even too.
Yeah. And it's not. Yeah, it's definitely harder to look at what Bakugo said to Deku at the very beginning, and
Hmm.
it's weird, right? I think the way the author sort of dealt with it is very heavy-handed. There's a number of different other manga and anime that I've read that or watched that have very similar starting points. I told you about the Breaker.
Yeah.
The Breaker has a very, very similar start to this anime in that the main character literally goes onto the rooftop to end his life.
Mm.
And it is only when his teacher comes that he is saved because he's got like um, supernatural martial art powers that sort of help him get out of that, and then he ends up doing his whole training arc and everything. So there's a parallel to the way MHA does it, but Deku's only thought, in comparison, is the fact that he's calling Bakugo an idiot because if he actually committed through it, he would be in trouble. He would be set up for the rest of his life to just fail because he wouldn't be able to become a hero.
Yeah, especially considering how his quirk works. So he's at a little bit of that disadvantage on top of the fact that they don't see eye to eye, just how they handle not only situations but people. And what's funny about this, right? Even I actually asked some of these questions to people on my Twitter, and I got a good amount of engagement from it. The surprising thing to me though was I could count on less than one hand the amount of people wouldn't be willing to forgive and trust as easily. Almost every other person was like, well, I think I probably would be willing to give them another chance. And they then listed their reasons. And for the most part, most people had their same reasons. And so at that point, I kind of just thought to myself, I know I have some trust issues, and I've had my share of pretty lousy experiences where friends are concerned.
Yeah.
But like, it just made me wonder, like, at what point then does the level of experience affect your trust versus what I would consider naivete or even gullibility? Because I don't want to sound so jaded that you should never consider giving someone a second chance if they really mean it.
Yeah.
But I will admit I am far more gun shy than I guess maybe most people, or at least most of the people that I got to survey on this, in terms of letting your guard down again and accepting someone back in who really fucked you over. Because I share your
Well,
sentiment of, you know, uh, it takes a lot to push you, and I consider myself the same way. So I think that's ultimately where I'm coming from with it, because like I don't think I can think of many people who have slighted me in a minute manner that would make me put me in this position. You'd have to slight me very harsh
yeah.
in order for me to even get to this very concept or this mindset. Because for the most part, even if someone makes a joke with me, and if the joke went a little over the line, I usually brush it over and not even care. Like even if it did hurt me a little bit, I still won't say anything because it's minuscule. It's not something that's worth making waves to me or causing a problem or getting defensive and upset and maybe causing a non-issue.
Yeah.
Whereas like something of this magnitude, I'd still kind of be in shock by most people.
It's okay. So there's interesting parallel. I think that because you're in a situation, imagine Bakugo telling Bakugo not to become a hero and to just like uh love themselves. I'm using
Yeah,
love
that'd be weird.
and I'm using love as a replacement for the actual act that he said to do. The now ultimately Bakugo would not react like Deku would, right?
Right.
I think there's a nuance being lost that is only seen in sort of hindsight that there is things that Bakugo can say because he was Deku's friend. A good example of this in sort of our circle is we obviously have a few friends that can at times say things that are very that seem
Very
very
fucked up.
that seem very stupid in the moment, and
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
give them a lot of shit for it, right?
True.
And they just take it. Um, because they know that what they said was pretty stupid, but also because they're the types of personality that don't sort of let that um, get to them as much because well, for them it can happen regularly, and um, yeah, we don't take it very seriously either because like ultimately our only takeaway in those situations is we want them to think about what they say just a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I do agree with, like thinking before you speak. In situations like that, though, I think it's easier to forgive it because I think if somebody slips of the tongue, it's easier to like apologize in that moment or even shortly after.
well, yeah.
Whereas, like,
Also, we won't actually tell them to jump off. We will just be like we'll just give them a little bit of a hard time for it.
no one will tell them to dig all the way down to bedrock without any food.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like that's yeah, bro. I got a million of these.
I like that they're all Minecraft themed.
I mean, legitimately, that was kind of the go-to. If I'm being honest, like, it's kind of like like unalive yourself in Minecraft. Like that was kind of the go-to response. I'm just being creative because it's funny to me.
Yeah, we might
But
we might also if you're this far already and we've put the disclaimer already, we might put a disclaimer that obviously we've talked a lot about the fact that there is self harm in um, MHA, so we'll probably put a note at the beginning.
yeah, definitely because like the whole reason I brought it up is because yeah, like it's a pretty fucking serious thing to say to somebody. And
It
like
is.
obviously like don't get me wrong, like I'm fine with it being in narrative. Like it's not like I'm saying it shouldn't be there. It's just like the thought of like someone who is like a brother to you saying this to you, that's what's fucked to me.
Yeah,
Like
and
and
it's a
it just
lot.
feels bad.
And it's a lot more natural today and has more to do with like modern school life than
Yes.
sort of when we were in school because I know
Yeah.
I know tons of people that have had their kids just have the worst types of jokes or they're not even jokes because they're serious, right? You have to treat it seriously, but
Agreed.
they don't realize it because they're school kids,
Yeah, definitely.
and it's horrible. And so we look at that and we look at what Bakugo's done and we're like, damn, that is horrible, bro. And there is no remorse for it, so it makes it really hard to relate to him. But I think
Yeah.
that's because in a situation that we're missing a lot of the fact that it's not really for us to forgive. It's and this is not just like pushing it aside. I truly mean this in the respect that only you can understand um, how you're supposed to respond to your friends in these kinds of situations. Some people you will let
Oh
it
yeah.
slide because it's your friend.
I do agree with you, but I think that's also where context comes in.
Yeah,
Because like obviously like in the case of Bakugo, like, we know what the context is. We know it's not just like ribbing. Like I mean hell, like you said, we have friends and even you and me sometimes we'll say something to each other that it's like, "Oh, that was kind of bitchy."
that was
But
kind
like
of fucked up.
yeah, but like we also know that if we did really cross a line, it would be talked about later on calmly, privately, and be like, hey, yeah, like This kind of stuck with me.
Or like even
And
in the moment, we're pretty self-aware. We try our hardest usually to be like, oh yeah, hang on, yeah, that was probably out of pocket.
no, I do agree, but like that's why I'm saying like yeah, I definitely think that because I agree with you. You should have context. You should be willing to forgive and excuse your friends in those moments, especially with jokes, because humor's a minefield today. It's definitely a lot worse than it used to be, and like you said, it becomes because of the fact that there are certain situations you should take seriously, and then there are certain situations where you should just say it was just a joke. It was just our friends being stupid with each other. It's not something you should really take seriously.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like obviously context is everything, and like in this case, like yeah, like the context is pretty clear that he's being demeaning, and
yeah.
it's like bro, why? This was your homie, man. Like what's wrong with you? Like Deku may cry a lot, but I probably would be more willing to give the crybaby the hug at this point than like stand 2 feet near Bakugo without punching him.
But then here's the thing, right? The way it is redeemed is because see, Deku just takes it. He just takes it and is like, "Yep, I'll just continue to be me." And then later on, he gets his his power, and yeah, he just completely, absolutely floors Bakugo with the power that he's got, and it's like not even comparable. Like Bakugo is very strong, and he's just getting like shown up really badly in comparison to what Deku is capable of.
Yeah, and I think that's where like some part of season 3 now is coming where he's kind of like he's starting to understand the disparity in skill level between him and Deku.
And
And
and it's like that's all Bakugo has. That is
yeah,
all his character has. He can only have his pride, his like
hmm
selfishness.
hmm
It's and so every time Deku puts that into question, every time he puts Bakugo's strength into question, that is a huge hit against him.
yeah, I do agree. And it don't at times like right now there are times where it seems like he's getting a little bit humbled because his aggression towards Deku it's a bit more subdued in these
Yeah.
last few episodes, especially with this one scene with All Might pointing, and Deku understands the significance of why he's pointing at the camera.
Right.
That it's
Right.
it,
Yeah.
that it's a clear cut message to him, and you can tell Bakugo has caught on. Like Bakugo may be a meathead, but he's really not stupid. Like that's a clear cut difference between him and like some other characters of his personality type and trope from other animes. He's quick on the uptake. It's just masked by the fact that he's constantly screaming, which is partially comic relief, admittedly. At least for some people. I just
Yeah.
find him annoying. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, yeah, like I do agree with the pride point because you almost see it weakening here and there because he has to acknowledge the fact that will only get him so far and so much because he's seeing the reality now and the differences between him and Deku,
Yeah.
regardless of how he might still feel about Deku. Ultimately, he still has to accept that if I want to even be close to this, I kind of can't keep hanging on to this much of my bullshit as much as my bullshit is a security blanket.
Yeah. Yeah. And considering you're that far in the anime, now that I understand how much you've watched in so short amount of time,
Oh, I'm plowing through this,
yeah,
man.
yeah, I can tell. Since you're already up to there, I can sort of talk about this. When and there's another spoiler. When Bakugo and Deku have their fight, have their their big fight after you know, All Might has his big fight.
Yeah,
Um,
you mean with his old friend, so to speak?
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
he has like the worst. They have the most unbelievable fight, and I mean that in the fact that I'm shocked that neither of them are dead because
Agreed.
from what they've displayed, if this weren't an anime, both of them should be dead.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah, but yeah, but anyways, they don't. But like that fight goes to sort of fix their relationship, um, or begin mending the relationship because after that they sort of are a bit more honest to each other about um first Bakugo what he thinks he can say to help Deku, and Deku obviously reveals a lot more about his situation to him.
So Deku actually does explain how he works then a little bit.
Uh, not to the extent that I think Deku actually it's more Bakugo asks him about it. He's worked out in his head and he asks him and then he ends up asking All Might like right after. I wasn't sure if you'd seen this fight yet, but
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen. Yeah, if you're referring to a fight with Deku and Bakugo, no. I have seen All Might and All for One go at each other. And I have seen Bakugo ask All Might, and All Might gives him the most vague, ambiguous answer he could give, and Bakugo understands that he won't tell him. So like that's as far as I've seen as far as what you're
okay, yeah.
talking about here.
Then what
I've
I'm
not seen
talking
the two of
about,
them go at each other.
yeah. So what I'm talking about happens like right after this.
Okay, so then I'm coming up on that because I've only gotten to see a couple more episodes the last few days. I think I'm on. I feel like I'm on episode 12 or 14
Okay,
of season 3, and I've been dying to watch more right now because we finally got more to Toga, who I really fucking love for
yep,
obvious reasons.
yep,
I'm a yandere whore,
yeah.
but but like but like legitimately yeah, like I have not had the chance to pick it up because well I've had to do everything else that's
Yeah,
occupied
yeah,
my
yeah.
time from just sitting down and being like, I wish to binge more of you, but I'm getting
Yes.
about an episode or two of you in a sitting and I'm getting frustrated.
But you also need to just take care of your health. Please.
fuck, fuck,
Please.
fuck my health. I'm watching more Yandere.
You can't do
I
this to me.
don't
I
need
can't do a
help.
podcast by myself.
No, don't worry. Just put me on life support. We'll be fine.
I'll just put the heartbeat monitor on screen.
Yeah, literally. Hey, you know what? Actually, that might be funny one day. That might actually
That
be kind of funny. Just to
maybe.
see, yes, this is clearly how low it is on a bad day. Maybe I should get my cardiologist checked again.
Yeah. But yeah, there's not really much more I think I can say on about Bakugo that we haven't already brought up. Like,
No, I agree. Like honestly, like it was more something that like I just found interesting because like you said, the modern day bullying component of it and being primarily focused out of mental health and that kind of trauma. Because like you said, it's not like when we were younger when we were more you got that stuff when we were younger, but we also got a lot of like the fist fight shit when we were younger.
yeah.
Whereas like today, this was a good modern take. So like that's why I found it interesting to go over it because yeah, it is very relevant and yeah, like I figured it was it would be if it was cool to me to see what other people might think, not only in regards to the fact that yeah, it's an anime, so we tend to have different viewpoints, but how do we feel when we like dissect it? So yeah, I do agree because like
I
I wouldn't know what else to say about him at this point anyway if I was to continue talking about him.
it's funny, right? You mentioned that it's that you like that it was a modern take, and to some degree, you're so right. I've got friends that are like into anime, right? And like sort of into the same things that we're into. But they're in their 40s, which wouldn't make a difference. You wouldn't be able to tell they're in their 40s because they don't age, or like they don't visibly age. Other than like, they'll be like, man, I am sore today. But
I
um,
feel that way now. I sit down, I grunt. I stand up, I grunt. I'm already 40.
but
Like,
they're also idiots in the way they interact with each other is by getting into fist fights with each other. And
interesting.
it's very silly, and it's probably more of a New Zealand culture thing. If I'm being honest, I don't know. I can't say that because I've never met anyone
No,
else
no,
like that.
no. I can contribute to this and tell you don't. It's actually not. If I'm really being honest, because there are dudes like that here. We might call them more like dude bro type and everything that do that kind of shit. Like, like even when I was younger, I only had like one friend that I occasionally roughhoused with, but overall, I guess you could say I probably was in a bit more of the minority of the guys who didn't care for that shit.
Yeah.
But it actually is a bit more common, I think, even globally than you might think.
Well, they also drink, and yeah. Don't.
Just go to the UK. I'm sure there's plenty of people who will agree with that too. I mean, like let's look at pub culture for a minute, right? Like shit like that happens
Yeah.
fairly regularly. So like, I mean, yeah, I think to a certain extent that's where the classic phrase "boys will be boys" comes from.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
definitely can't relate with it. And
Same.
yeah, even one among them is like, you guys are fucking idiots.
Yeah, I feel that, bro.
But it was still I don't know. It's still interesting to me that yeah, because I definitely couldn't. I probably could do it with maybe one of my mates, but it would have to be like, it would be something of like the YouTube boxing match kind of thing, where it wouldn't just be us like throwing king hits at each other and trying to ruin our lives.
Yeah, it would literally just be like, yeah, either like a regulated type of match or just some silly little roughhousing, like wrestling, even.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I will say I used to we had this Japanese exchange student uh program in back at my high school, and I did it once, and the guy who I had as like my exchange student was really cool, and at like the last day we did like a celebration with them, and it was really cool, right? Because they wanted to show us sumo wrestling, and so we just did sumo wrestling with a bunch of Japanese exchange students, and it was fun, man. It was so cool.
Sumo wrestling. That's actually something, if I'm honest, at this point in my life, I'd probably be more willing to do that than
It was
regular
really
wrestling.
fun.
Cause like it feels a little safer,
Oh,
honestly.
dude, you do. It is like, I would have a hard time figuring out how I would get injured because the padding, we had the padding set up so that when you fell outside, you just kind of rolled off. And
Yeah.
often it would be like, oh man, it's literally just they're throwing your balance off. It's never, you never lose because you weren't strong enough. You always lost because you let your balance get off a smidgen, and they see it, and then they just throw you to the side, and you're like, how did that happen? How did I just get flipped? Why am I staring at the roof?
It's funny, right? That's partially why I've always liked Smash, because it's very similar to that. Just get knocked out of the ring, get knocked out of bounds. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It is actually kind of similar in that thought. Like, if you think about it like Super Smash Brothers, it's literally like you're both starting at 33%, and anything could just immediately just throw you out of the ring. It's actually very much
Doria.
like that. Yeah, Doria.
with my belly.
But yeah, very very cool experience. I forgot how this relates, but it's still
It related because we were talking about like the
oh
modern
yeah,
day
that's
like
right. Yeah.
yeah like because of like modern day like bullying, fist fighting, and then yeah, you just it was a segue, but
Yeah, yes.
but it was an interesting tangent that I just liked. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. Nah, honestly, would be keen to do it again, honestly. But yeah, yeah, it's a good time. It's very
It,
fun.
I think given the right situation, it's something even I would be willing to try
Mm,
because, like I said, it's something that my fucking frail physique probably could handle, but
yeah.
without my osteoporosis ass getting completely like broken. Like it's like I don't understand, doctor. How did he break his pelvis? You don't want to know. It's a lot less cool than you think.
No, yeah, exactly. But yeah, sort of, just to finish off, you was there anything else that you've been really enjoying about My Hero?
Yeah, actually, in all seriousness, like aside from the fact that they give good screen time to a lot of the characters, especially like the young heroes and all that, the villains. And I say this not in the traditional sense
Hmm.
that I normally like villains, because normally when I think of villains, especially if I'm thinking of like in this same theme of superheroes and bad guys, like
Yeah,
I tend to think like, originally like things like the Joker from Batman or, maybe fucking hell, let's just throw out a common culture one for today, Thanos, there's even though they're enjoyable in some ways, there's a different bond with My Hero villains than there are from other villains. The My Hero villains, they almost feel like a family. And this is evident by when One for All talks to it's Shigaraki, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
believe. Yeah. When he speaks to him, it's almost like a father and a son.
yeah,
It's and while he does refer to him as master, you know, it there's a level of care and concern between each other and almost a level of nurturing that you see even as he's an adult now. And Shigaraki, they even established from the beginning, has a childlike quality and almost a temper tantrum innocence to him. Um, and then when you look at the other villains, and some of this stuff I've also seen in clips, so like I haven't gotten to these points yet, but it's just bolstered what I know is coming. They have a sense of camaraderie that you wouldn't expect from this group.
yeah,
Like even Toga, who has very specific people that she actually feels genuine love for. She she's not someone who typically has that kind of love for everybody. She's more focused on being that psychotically free, violent young girl. And even she seems to learn and develop and understand the vibe and almost has a certain respect for like if Shigaraki says something, she seems to listen. And she's probably the prime example of the dog off her leash, you know?
right.
And if he says something, even if she pouts or she's bothered by it, she seems to listen from what I've seen so far. And I'm just like, what is this level of family unity in these villains that makes me look at them and is like, I haven't seen this since the Jaegers from Akame ga Kill,
Yeah.
where it's like, how different is the line here between good and evil versus the real life component of what is good, what is evil? Can you define it? I don't think anybody clearly can
Well,
because
it's interesting, right? Because you're not far off because in the it feels like there would be no villains if there weren't heroes, and a lot of their focus is they don't really. It's not the fact that they want to do evil. Most of them just want to get rid of heroes.
Yeah, definitely.
And so the fact that villains even exist because of heroes. Well, it's weird, right? Because in the lore, it's established how heroes first came about. But there's a big spoiler, so I'm not gonna go too far into that. But like, yeah, no, I agree. When even I don't think I truly appreciated how much the villains are actually like a family, like you're saying. Like even beyond that, even beyond Shigaraki and All for One, the the relationship Mr. Portal guy has with the rest of
Yeah.
the villains.
Yeah, I think it's Kirigiri, I think,
Yeah,
or yeah.
yeah. Yeah, just like yeah, it's all very yeah, very much like a family in comparison to what you might think when you say look at Marvel villains or DC villains or even other anime villains.
Yeah, because like they are crafted like supervillains, that's for sure. It's very established that yeah, these are supervillains. They're
Yeah.
not, they're not like they're not like other villains in other animes or even in other Western comics. Yeah, like they're still supervillains in that cliche regard, but they defy the cliche regard because
Yeah.
yeah, like the unity they have, it's almost touching to me at times. And it's at those moments like I started looking at Shigaraki. Like when I first saw Shigaraki, all I thought was, oh, he's kind of cool. Now I'm like, yo, bro, do you need a hug? Like are you all right? Like who hurt you? Like, are you okay, man? And then when you find out more about his backstory and who he's related to, and even All Might feels that in that moment, and then that's when fucking damn it, what's his man name? Old man Sonic Boots. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Gran Torino. That's it.
Yeah,
Like
I was about to say
he
Speed of Sound Sonic, but
yeah, right.
that's One
Exactly.
Punch Man.
Yeah. But like even All Might starts to see have that little weakness and that empathy because he's like he was just a boy and there was no one there for him, and All for One has been there for him. I mean, One for All has been there for God. I get so fucking tongue tied with that shit.
Yeah, bro, I
But
get it. I get so tongue tied just saying My Hero Academia.
yeah, the All for One and One for All. Like I know who they are, I know the differences, but
Yeah.
I constantly invert it every time I speak. I hate it because it's such an old classic saying. I should know this, but like that aside, like yeah, like I'm really looking forward to more because I know from what I've been told from other friends, I think it's season 5 that's called like My Villain Academia. I think it's that season that focuses
Yeah.
exclusively on them, and like I really like the villains so far. Like I have really enjoyed the heroes, but I also want more of the villains' character development now because yeah, I just want to experience.
During that arc, we also get the one and only multi-platform all-star Dr. Doofenshmirtz as a fucking cameo.
Dude, I'm seeing the memes. I'm seeing the memes, bro. Dude, I saw a short just earlier today. The guy who voices Doofenshmirtz comments on the My Hero meme and the character.
Yeah,
He
yeah, yeah.
loves it. He fucking loves it, bro. Like he is so in love with the meme. Like, and I've seen the clip where it's like, Super Villain Incorporated, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then it like shows the character in My Hero, and then they dub in his voice lines over the character, and they show Parry the Platypus come up the elevator, and then he gets whacked out by this giant hand, and the voice actor is just like, yo, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know what this guy's ability is, but I love this giant hand, man. And
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, he's like it, and even he acknowledges the weird similarity. Like, yeah, there's got to be something. Like, if not, it's the weirdest fucking coincidence I have ever seen in my goddamn life.
There's likely some crossover. Yeah, the guy who does the artwork for My Hero Academia, he's done a lot of other artwork from other like media before. Um,
Mm.
yeah, it could be possible. It could be possible. There's inspiration. I wouldn't know. Not confirmed.
Yeah, like honestly, like it's it's so ironic that if it's not, then I just need to sit down the creator of it's Phineas and Ferb, right? I
Yeah,
believe. Oh, yeah, we just gotta sit down Phineas and Ferb's creator and My Hero's creator and just be like, okay, the two of you need to collab immediately. I just want to see what the hell happens if the
that
two
would
of
be
you are in
a
the same
pretty
room.
boss collaboration. Actually, I'd be so down for that. That's like oh, what's a good example of something that sounds very similar? It's kind of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle with Batman crossover. Like that was also
Oh,
a
that was
really good idea.
fucking amazing. Like,
Yeah,
and it's
man.
weird, right? Because the art style in that is so jarring when you're watching it, but then it gets so adult so quickly. Not only in subject matters, the dialogue, and then the violence. Like
Yeah.
the art style I saw, and then accompanied by blood. I was like, my like fucking 12-year-old inner self was not prepared for what I just watched.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it shocked me, but it was awesome. Like yeah, like I hell now when you said it, like now I'm kind of just picturing like Deku in the style of Phineas and Ferb. Like that actually hell that seems like a fun idea to do. Like
Yeah,
just
like yeah.
like stylizing some of those characters.
I'd actually be very keen to see Phineas and Ferb in the My Hero style.
Honestly, that's a collab we should write down.
Yeah,
Write that down. Write that down,
maybe.
dude.
Actually, we'll do it. We'll do it just because we said it on the podcast. That actually sounds like a gangster idea.
No, yeah,
We
honestly,
might
like
even
like
do it for the thumbnail. Actually, I might actually like. I'll add a cut here if it's the thumbnail. Then we'll do it. But like, yeah, yeah,
yeah, because like honestly, I would actually like really like to see Deku in like the Phineas and Ferb style. Like I think that might actually be really cool.
but yeah, yeah, yeah. On another subject.
Mm.
Do you remember the anime rock paper scissors video that I sent to you? That
how,
digital
how
corridor did.
how could I forget?
um, so they did a sequel, and
Really?
the sequel is really funny. It's really good, but of course, there's even more controversy over the AI art that's being used in it.
Actually, it's
Um,
funny you say that. I did see some things on my Twitter timeline, I think about a couple of weeks ago. I just didn't realize it was a sequel. So yeah.
yeah, so it's interesting, right? Because the artwork they used for this, they paid an actual like character designer to do all of the like concepts and then animate it using AI artwork. And so
Mm.
this is a little bit different where the argument is now is it still right if the artist you know agrees to let them use their work because now their artwork is just going to be you know one of those replicated styles like there isn't really an undo button he's you know allowed for it to be used for this type of thing um so now
I
that
think I think in terms of consent, like I'm actually okay with that because I think one problem most people have with AI is that a lot of people's stuff was collected without their consent. Um So I think with consent, it might be okay. And then as far as replicating styles go, right? There's a lot of artists out there that I like and admire, especially when I'm talking about anime or not safe for work stuff. And there's bleed over between them. Like you can see the similarities to the point that people have mimicked things so well that sometimes you have a hard time telling a difference in the art style. And I think that that's inevitable whether you're dealing with people or machine. So
Right.
I don't know if that's inherently a problem.
I'm a bit iffy about it because now um the problem right here is if their artwork if they're being reproduced if their artwork's being reproduced by AI, that is pretty much them out, or that like they've done their part. That is all they needed to contribute. The AI just does basically the rest of it now. Um, there's a there are two sides to this that I look at that are going through my mind when I think about the fact that this guy's agreed to have his art style be reproduced. The first thing is that to some degree that artist may still be required per character design. So it really depends. I think to some degree, once you've drawn like a set amount of character designs, the AI is probably going to be good enough that it doesn't need any more help. But um, like yeah, to some degree, I don't think. I think if we're talking in the long run, the artist will still have to constantly recreate new like templates if we're thinking of them like templates for each character that's drawn so that the AI can learn how to correctly, animate it or otherwise. And it's still not perfect. Like it still has the usual issues of like hands or like
And
you
his
know
feet, the hair merges into things on occasion still.
yeah. But it's a lot cleaner than the first attempt. If you watch the first one and you look at the second one has a lot more. Um, oh, what's the word? It looks a lot cleaner. It just looks a lot cleaner in comparison.
Yeah,
Um,
I do agree with that. There is a lot more cleanness to the AI art now going forward. I've used Pixo on occasion when I've been tinkering around with it, and it's one that's taken some time to get better. But then I have other friends who have used ones that are way more sophisticated, and like it's a little spooky sometimes how well it does, how good of a job it does making some of these arts. And yeah, admittedly, there is a style to most AI art now. Like we can see there's especially at least as far as like when I look at anime art, I see a very consistent painterly style.
yeah.
That's more done by like Japanese artists, if I'm really being honest.
So this is actually the second thing that I was going to mention. Right, is
Yeah,
that unlike some of the normal like AI generated artwork, this is replicating like a very like comic book coloring style, which is kind of maddening. It's like, wow, we like if it's getting to the point where studios may just be able to remove coloring artists just almost entirely because they can just replicate it via AI.
yeah. Like my problem with AI was this very same thing right from the beginning. The question of how much does it actually replace artists and thus cause people to lose jobs? Because like artists have a hard enough time out here without machines coming in and doing this shit to us. So like
Yeah.
that's definitely the part that scares me. I mean, I've seen some like if I can get like very mildly political for a moment, there's some bills that have been in talks in my country to pass that would limit the use of AI to no more than 30% of workload that you would otherwise give to a person.
I would assume
Um,
that this would be due to the strikes that are currently happening.
yeah, probably because like I have seen because writers' strikes was a big one, and AI for writing had seems like it was turning into just as big of a problem as we artists were facing and are facing. Like it's kind of unreal. And if you think about it, those two things often go hand in hand with each other, writing and art. Um,
Well,
so like,
it's funny that we talk about this. I've actually got a really funny story.
mm.
And I ain't no snitch, but so I'm just gonna leave their name out. But I heard
Okay.
um, one of my friends is in like management, and their friends are also in management, and they had to file out like assessment reports, right?
Yeah.
And all of them, all of my friends' mates, or sorry, co-workers, used AI to have them generate their reports that they needed to write out,
Oh my God.
and they all got caught out on it, and it was very funny.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I have a couple of friends who are in college and have copped to me that they've used Chat GPT to help write some of their
Yep,
essays and research
yep,
papers.
yep. They were
And
doing the exact same thing, bro.
yeah, and like yeah, right. And like if I'm honest, I don't know, I probably would have done the same fucking thing.
Yeah,
If,
I mean, yes, because work
yeah,
sucks. If you're in
yeah.
school, homework sucks. If you're in work, yeah, of course you're going to look at ways you can make it easier. And if you're generating something that's going to be exactly what you write, if not better, then yeah, the convenience of AI is definitely something that we would want to use personally.
Yeah, you want to know what I'd say the problem with this is eventually only? Because,
Well,
like, there's two things. On one hand, I completely agree because I have said for years that, like, again, mildly political, aside from the fact that I consider myself a pacifist, I've often been someone who doesn't like the system and the way wages are doled out and jobs.
mm,
And I've often thought to myself, what if we got to a point where machines literally did every job and eliminated the need for any actual job to be done?
right.
Now, this goes one of two ways. The first way, I think, which is the positive way, is that, oh, currency is no longer needed, jobs are no longer needed, society runs itself. We can basically just do whatever we want whenever we want for the joy of it rather than having to for the necessity or the utmost of survival for it. Whereas the negative component of this is how many people will get lazy, complacent, and above all else, depressed as a result of it. Because it'll be like some people would have the mindset of the former, I said, but a large majority probably would have the latter of, well, I guess I could just be lazy, right? And like that poses problems eventually too, because then what happens if, you know, things start getting boring because it's all just spoon fed to you. And the challenge that human beings sometimes enjoy, because a lot of human beings enjoy the struggle and the effort that they had to put in to achieve something so that they can feel proud and
So,
satisfied.
sort of on this note, did you know that Photoshop can now add in like images and models and other sorts of things using AI?
Yeah, same thing with CSP, I think.
Oh, so Clip Studio also does it now? I
I'm
thought they
pretty
I thought
sure,
they
yeah.
removed it.
I did hear about it. Maybe they did remove it, but I know that that was a thing. Maybe they did remove it, but I did
I
hear
think they
that as a thing.
removed it. I think only Photoshop does this. I only know because I was watching someone play around with it and like add um yeah, just like things into their videos and like or things into their photos that were just like just like a Coke can or like other sort of like a chicken. There was a chicken that he inserted into his photo that it was very much like yeah, it was just interesting. It was just interesting to kind of watch, but like it was also like, oh, you can now just do this in Photoshop. That's incredibly strange.
Well, too, like, no, I do agree, but I'm not surprised because Photoshop charges way more money now at this point than CSP, and they know a lot of people aren't paying for it as much, so they probably figure, fuck it, we'll get a different demographic now. We'll get the AI demographic because let's be real, right? The AI demographic of quote unquote artists is very different from us. You
Yeah.
know, actual fucking artists, people who do things with their own goddamn hand, you know. And again, it's not like we don't have tools that make things easier. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying that AI shouldn't be used at all. It's just the minute you start using it to replace somebody, like, think about how you would feel in your job. Do you want think about like your grandparents who had their entire existence replaced by a fucking machine with a crane arm,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
back in the day,
So
that has merit to it.
so there is actually a really good video on YouTube. I will put it in the link in the description. By a channel called Noodle, and he does a breakdown on the on AI art that is used. Oh, sorry, it's AI that is used to make anime into 60 FPS, and he does a good breakdown of why it destroys artistic intent. And I think in that sense, that is what is important when it comes to AI. It is whether or not the convenience ultimately destroys the artistic intent. Because I think if we can actually just animate, right? Like we just draw like a character and we can animate him how we see fit after we've drawn like one iteration of him. That's pretty cool. That like I would not be opposed to that.
I do
How we
agree with
get
you
there.
because honestly, it would be tempting. I'd be like, ah, yes, Retrograde is no longer a light novel. It is now AI animated series.
Yeah. But it's like actually like good. Like
Yeah,
it's like
no,
that.
I
It's like the
agree.
Sonic art we were looking at, right? Because
Yeah.
because AI art was like terrible with creating Sonic art, and then we saw those ones that were on DeviantArt, and some of them were actually like really good and
Yeah,
like with really
agreed.
good concept ideas.
Yeah, I do agree.
And so there's that differentiation where we can finally get to a point where it's like, well, does this look good enough as a product? Can we do something with this? By then, it's only how you perceive the situation that affects whether or not you're about it or not. Because if you're a creator and you want to like do storytelling or you want to do animation or you want to create a series that you care about, that becomes a lot more achievable when you've got all of this.
I do agree with you, but I actually have another interesting thing to add now too. What do you think? Like it's obvious that some people have generated AI art and like they've like maybe edited it a little bit, like actual artists who could
Yeah.
like improve on it a bit. But what do you think the ethics are on tracing AI art and then improving upon that as you've traced it? What do you think the ethics are of that?
Well, it's weird, right? Because the AI art is more than likely stolen.
Right.
So you are drawing from stolen art, but it depends. Tracing stolen art, I think, is a trifecta of really bad ideas. If you're
Don't die
just
on this hill.
if you're using it right, like I'm not about tracing just in general. If it's a learning thing, it's a little bit different.
Because that's what I was gonna say. Like, because I have plenty of times taken a reference, traced the reference, and then used my tracing as a reference because it allowed me to better understand how the line work was guided,
Yeah.
because it was now free of all of the colors and lines and shadows. Obviously, I did not repurpose my tracing, but I used my tracing so that I could draw it better. It's actually partially how I learned how to draw some anime art a bit better too.
Okay, yeah, but also like if you're using like model figures and you're using those for drawing, there's already a very big difference between tracing one of those and using it for your artwork, because you're not actually tracing someone's artwork. What you're doing is you're using a model and then positioning it and then using that to draw the
No, I
basic
agree.
shape. And you
No,
can't
I get
just you can't.
that's why I think though that like tracing AI itself might not be completely bad either, because it's a similar process to the model.
Um, It's not. The reason why I was going to go into this, the reason why it's okay when you're doing it with a model is because a model doesn't have defined, um, it doesn't have defined line work. All you're doing is you're taking a 3D, maybe taking the trace of it, right, and you're creating artwork out of it. But you have to do a lot to be like, when you're doing it that way, you have to consider line weight. You have to still, there's a very human thing about the steps that it takes to turn that model into like your own piece of artwork.
But
When
I
you're
think
doing
you
it
could
with
do the same
AI,
thing with. I think you could do all the same with AI though, because as we pointed out, there's a lot of flaws that AI makes that only an artist's eye notice, and then your ability to correct that would might take a little bit more effort than even tracing the model.
hmm,
Because like I'll just give a quick
it
example, right?
depends on how much your artwork is being influenced by your use of AI. And it's the same with models in this situation. So it's very
Yeah.
similar in that degree.
No,
But
I agree. It shouldn't be a crutch, but I think it might be an interesting concept.
I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not fully against it, but I'm also like, you shouldn't. The problem is I have more of a problem with the process than I do the actual act. Just because you're not learning as an artist, or you are just using it as a crutch. If you have to refer to, even it's the same with models. If you have to use models to pose and figure out what you're doing every single time, if you're unable
Yeah.
to draw a person looking
Yeah.
natural from
Right.
scratch, you
Right.
need to you need to build that foundation as an artist. It's
No,
just
I agree with that completely, and that's not what I'm advocating for.
right,
Like,
right.
because like when you look at an AI piece, you need to have good enough skills as an artist inherently to even be able to trace over it, spot the flaws, know where to correct those things, and then kind of recreate it. It's almost like a before and after picture, if you think about it, because like it's like, oh, this is what it was like 6 months ago. This is what you now look like, like 3 months later.
I
So
don't
like,
I don't know
I think
if
it's
I
interesting.
agree. I think like do you remember? Okay, again, I ain't no snitch, but do you remember that person that I told you about that was very obviously tracing Lion King
Yes, yes, yeah,
images?
yes.
It's like, and they're not by any means a very skilled artist, but the result looks a lot better than what you would normally expect, right?
Of
And
course.
if you're not a artist, then you might not, or you're not affiliated with Lion King, you might not even be able to tell that it's traced.
You're right, but by this same logic, it's like when you deal with someone who's a decent enough artist, and then the layman takes a look at the artwork and it's like, "Oh, this is great." But then another artist looks at it and they can say, "Well, it's not bad, but this is wrong. The hand is broken, the boobs aren't connected to the right
Oh yeah,
socket like this."
absolutely.
Yeah. So like it's the same premise, right? So like as a result, yeah, there is a difference here between what I just said and what you said in terms of ethics. Completely agreed. But like, I think that it's something that, yeah, more skilled artists should consider, because there might be a situation where like you want to create something and maybe you do want to, like, 'cause I have used AI sometimes to generate poses as references. And then I have looked at it, drawn it, and I've
I
made the corrections on my own. Now, I have
I
not traced it, obviously, like what I'm saying here, but
yeah.
I think that could be something
No,
that might
yeah,
also be interesting.
there's an artist on YouTube that did a video that was like, use AI artwork um to to become a better artist. And it's a
Right.
really good. If I can find the video, I'll link it. I haven't watched it.
I,
I've just seen it.
I have watched it and I know what you mean.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and and he talks about a lot because that's where a lot of my shit is coming from here too. Some of it's coming from that video.
Right.
Because like, yeah, it shouldn't be a crutch and it shouldn't be something that you use to just be lazy. And like you said before, it shouldn't be used as something if it's going to kill your motivation and drive. But I do think that that like someone could take it, trace it, make changes to it, because no AI, at least currently, is going to make perfect images. And if we have an AI that does make perfect images now or at some point in the future, then
What do you
yeah,
mean by
you can just
perfect
learn
images?
perfect images in the sense that like we look at it and there's really no flaw. Like the
Because
arms aren't broken, the fingers aren't, fused together. Like I'm talking about like let's say like an AI generator that creates an image that looks so clean that you say, "Oh wow, this looks like it was really done by a professional artist," because another artist can look at it and not tell the difference. I
I,
think when you hit that point,
I mean,
that's when you can use to learn from it.
we had that art piece that won the art contest that ended up being AI generated. Like that was a big
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, and now that's obviously horseshit because yeah, like I don't think that you should be able to use that to get ahead, especially in a monetary sense.
The
But I
the
think
the big thing is I don't think we're going to be able to tell. I think as it just continues, like unless like at the moment AI is sort of identifiable by its style, like you were saying before, they have a very painterly style most of the time. I think the moment they begin to expand from that a little bit more, we're not going to actually be able to spot what is AI and what is not without a magnifying glass and a good
it
hour.
has already gotten to that point a little bit. There are other apps that can do that because some of our other friends have actually shown me some things and I've seen some things. But there is one thing that AI is still having a hard time doing, and it's how people are checking for shit, and it's how we found out about the AI winning the art contest in the first place. The original files, the sketch work, the line art, the
Right.
the layers, like this is something that currently, presently, the machine can't reproduce because the machine is generating, it's not drawing.
Yeah.
So that's currently our little excuse me, that's currently our little identifier at the moment. That's the little red herring. So people can do this all they want. If people aren't at least willing to show you the original file with the sketch work, and it's also partially why my paranoid ass sometimes records excessive amounts of time lapses, because I tend to reference things a lot and I will save images online from either other artists or just people posing in photographs, maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
cosplayers and stuff. And I will try my best to replicate the pose and the perspective by drawing and copying and referencing. Obviously, I'm not tracing, but I think it's always a fear in the back of my mind that someone might accuse that. So I'll do that a lot. And in regards to that, that's another backup for the concern of, oh, did this guy generate? Did this person generate? Like, like it's always having at least having sketch and line art and layers. And if not that, yeah, a time lapse. Because
Yeah.
I've yet to see an AI do these things yet. I think until we hit that point, we can still tell. And if a person doesn't provide any of those things, well, it's likely to assume, okay, got you in 4K.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I fully agree. Yeah. Yeah. No,
God,
I
there's a
think we are
frog in my
still
throat.
all good. All good. I think we've reached our time for today, anyways. We've talked a bit about both the subject of AI and my hero. I'm
But I
very
haven't finished rambling incessantly.
well, unfortunately, they'll have to wait for next time.
You son of a bitch.
But yeah, if you liked this, please, subscribe. Please look forward to more of this. And yeah, this time, if you guys have anything that you want us to talk about, afterwards, or anything to follow through on this, so that Shade can, ramble a little bit more about AI artwork, then let us know. We will actually do a deeper breakdown in the next episode if you guys want it.
Yeah, I mean, like, admittedly, like, manga, anime, art, philosophical views. Like, I mean, no, these may be like our main little box of things, but yeah, I mean, we're always open to, like, a few other little things. And yeah, if there is something you did enjoy, like Scott just said, yeah, just let us know, because I mean, talking is something that we just do incessantly.
Indeed. But yeah, this has been us. This has been Shade and Scott. If you come into the next episode, then we'll see you then.
Yeah, cacaw motherfuckers. Good seeing you. Hi, hey guys, if you're watching this part of the video, you're probably realizing that we forgot to give you the artist shout out. So if you're actually looking for a future artist shout out, just feel free to advertise your art. You can hit us up on Twitter. Maybe you want to join our Discord server over at Paws and Talons. And, we're always looking through new and upcoming artists. So if you'd like a chance to be featured on this podcast, or at least be mentioned in a shout out, yeah, just make sure that you're putting your art in a place that it's visible to us. So thank you again for watching, and we appreciate you all.